When balancing the Steddiepod with your camera, the first thing you do is take off the quick release plate, mount it to the bottom of your camera, then put your camera in the mode that you're going to use it in, like with the flip out viewfinder out and any accessories you're going to put on it, and then put it on the Steddiepod. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the Dutch tilt is tight, because if the Dutch tilt is loose while you're trying to balance it, it could flip out and cause an accident. So the next thing you want to do is hook up the zoom control or anything that you might hook up to your camera, and then you want to very carefully grab it by the swivel handle. And actually, one of the things you want to do is try to pre-guess ahead of time as close as you can where the swivel handle is going to go. Now, once you've done all this balance with your camera and it's all balanced, you're not going to need to change this unless you go to a heavier camera or a lighter camera. But this is a heavier camera, so I'm thinking it's going to be higher up, like somewhere along in here. If you had a lighter camera, of course it would be further down somewhere in here. But I'm going to go ahead and move it up about here just to kind of guess where it might be. And you hold it like this, and then you'll kind of let go, and you'll see that the camera end is heavy, so we know that we need to raise it up even further. So I'm going to take it up to here and try it. If this is too high up, then it would be heavier on the bottom end, and then I would lower it down. But anyway, I'm going to try it like this, and now oh, and also you want to tighten the tilt. So I'll put it here like this, and as you can see, the back and forth balance is really good now. If I had it further down, the back and forth balance would be really bad. It would be real heavy. Everyone needs a bell like that to let them know that that's not quite right. But anyway, see, it's camera heavy. So I'll go ahead and move it back up here. And now it balances back and forth really good. However, now it's front heavy. So to fix the front heavy, there's a couple of options. One is you can actually loosen your tilt and tilt the camera back a little bit. And we'll try this again. And now it's a little bit back heavy, but I can hold it like that and loosen the tilt. And by tilting the camera, that would make it front heavy. This would make it back heavy. We want to find the spot where it balances perfectly, and it's right there. So now we're going to tighten the tilt, and now it's pretty balanced. Like that. Now, the thing is that you can get good shots with it like this. However, it's not quite perfect, because if it were perfect, it would be a perfect T. The camera would be level with the shaft, and it would be a perfect T, more like that. But being like that, it's going to be front heavy, and it's going to nose down. We'll move it back like this, and we'll check the balance one more time. It's a little bit back heavy. So we'll move it till we find the spot, and then we'll tighten it. And now it's balanced, and you can walk around with it, and it'll be really smooth. Now, as far as walking around with it, the idea or the ideal way to have it is so that these three fingers and your thumb are holding the swivel handle, and your little finger is used to basically brake or steer it. So if you're holding it like this and you're holding it too tight, it's going to be too like shaky. And if you're holding it too loose, it can drift on you. So you want to hold it with these three in the thumb and break it with that. And you want it to be so that when you're walking with it, it's loose enough to eliminate any left or right chatter, but firm enough with the little finger so that you can break it and steer it. Like this. Also, you want to have it away from your side. Like if you're holding it like this or holding it like that, it's not going to be very smooth at all, and even holding it with two hands, it's not going to be very smooth at all. You want it out like this, just like a Steadicam arm, and you want to be able to walk around like that. Now, in the situation, or the other way to balance it even better is by using an offset balance plate. Like if you can't get it to where it balances perfectly like that, then you can use an offset balance plate, because you really ideally would like to have it where it's that perfect T. So here's how you would compensate for that. We already know that from this way of balancing it that the camera's front heavy, and we had to tilt it back a little to compensate for that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove the quick release plate, and we're going to put the offset balance plate on. So being the camera was front heavy, we need to move the hole, find a new hole further forward. And actually it was also dipping a little bit, so we're going to move it not only a little forward but also a little bit off to the side. So the idea here is you can move this back and forth, and you can move it left or right, so you can reposition where your balance hole is going to be. For this camera, I believe it's going to be about right there. And then you tighten it. Oops. And then you can put the quick release plate back on. See it move the position of the balance hole to the new place where it should balance better, hopefully. Put it back on the camera. Plug the zoom control back in, and we'll try to see where we are. It's a little bit back heavy, so I'm going to loosen the tilt, and I'm going to go back and forth with the tilt until I find the place where it seems to balance perfectly. If you've ever tried to balance a Steadicam or a GlideCam or any of our competitors' devices, this balance takes forever, I've heard. So now the balance is really good, and now it will actually, you'll get that perfect T, and it'll work better and be able to operate it better than before. Now, the other thing that you want to keep in mind is that if you're adding something like a light or a heavier wide-angle lens or anything that's going to change the balance of your camera, you've got a couple of choices. One of them is loosen the tilt again, put it on its side, and then tilt it in the direction you need to compensate for whatever you've just added to it. Other things that you can do to help the balance process quickly is things like, for example, if you had you put a heavier battery on the back, you can always do things like flip up the viewfinder, and that can help you. But you basically want to dial it in with the tilt and get it so that when you hold it sideways like this, it's pretty much balanced, and that if you tilt it like that, that it's very close, or as close as possible. Like something like this, you'll be able to easily overcome with your holding it. But if it's drastic, like if when you hold it like this and it's balanced, but then you do it like that and you let go and it comes back really quick, that means that you've got too much weight on one side of the camera or the other, in which case you can move the offset balance plate over one way or over the other way to compensate for that. The other thing you should consider when adding things to your camera, especially if you've got a heavier camera like we've got, you want to add things that are as light as possible. Like a lot of people put big heavy lights on their camera. We recommend the light because it only weighs about 2.5 ounces and it's really bright and it's just a wonderful light.